Hi, here we are with Notes Day 2, number 3 on harmonic motion. I've already drawn my graph out. I've already read through the problem carefully, so I'm ready to start working on the problem. The first thing I notice is it tells me what shape my graph's going to be. It says the water first goes down from its normal level to the lowest level. So that has to mean it starts in the middle and goes down, then rises to the highest level, then back to normal. Well, I can draw this shape in, and I notice right off this is going to be a negative sine curve. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative here on my A. I'm going to write that down here so I don't forget it later. The next sentence says the time it takes to go from the lowest level back to the highest and then back is 15 minutes. That means that the whole increment is 15 minutes worth. So that's my E. And it also asked me to graph from 0 to 15. So from 0 to 15, that's one whole cycle, and that matches what it says up there for 15 minutes. The tidal wave continues this pattern until it crashes onto the shore. Suppose a tidal wave with an amplitude of 10, amplitude means this distance is 10, so that's my A value, approaches Honolulu where the normal water depth is 9. Well, the normal water depth is the middle one, and I know that's also D, so I'm going to write it down. And that's all the information in my problem. So I can go ahead and finish filling in my graph here. If this is 10 and 9, that's 19. This is also 10, so this makes this -1. And if this is 15, that's E. I can find the increment by doing 15 divided by 4 is 3.75. And I can use my calculator to add on 3.75 each time, and I've done that already. That's 3.75, 7.5, 10.75, and 15. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish filling in B and C. C is where it starts, that's 0. And B is 2 pi over E, so that's 2 pi divided by 15. I could reduce that if I wanted. I'm just going to leave it like that because I'm going to put it in my calculator anyway. So that's part A, complete. Part B, write out my equation. I'm glad I put my negative sign here so I don't forget that to go with my 10. B x minus C plus D. I technically don't have to write out the -0, but since I'm using equation solver, if I go ahead and write it out, I won't mess it up on my equation solver. So part B is done. Part C. Predict the depth of water at 2 minutes and 12 minutes. Well, 2 minutes is going to be right in here, and 12 minutes is going to be right in here. So on my calculator, I'm going to put in 2 for X and 12 for X and see what my Y values are at each one of those. So I'm going to go to my equation editor, and I've got my equation editor in sign, and I've already put in my A, B, C, and D here. And if I put in 2 for my X, I get this for my Y. 1.57 feet. Let's see if that number makes sense on my graph. We said 2 would be about here. Does that look like it could possibly be about 1.5 feet? Kind of makes sense, kind of close to this number. That looks reasonable on my graph. So I'm going to write it down here. 1.57 feet. Now I'm going to do the same thing for X equals 12. Go up here. 12. Solve. Tells me 18 feet. Let's look at our graph and see if that makes sense. Over here, if I look right here at where 12 would be, does that look reasonable that that could be 18? It does, because it's pretty close to the top right here. So that looks totally reasonable, 18.5 feet. So that's part C. Okay, part D says, between what two times was there no water in the pier? Well, is no water talking about X or Y? Well, this is the height of the water. No water would occur at 0 and anything less than 0. So I'm looking for, where is Y equal to 0? And I'm looking for what 2 times that happens. Well, 0 is going to be somewhere along here. So I'm looking for where does it happen here. And where does it happen here? I want to look at that on my curve because I need to estimate where the x's happen. The first one happens pretty close to 0, so I'm going to use 0 as my estimate there. So I'm going to go back to my equation editor, put in 0 for y, and I want it to look close to 0 for x. So I'm going to put a 0 there and do the solver. And it says 2.67. Does that look possible here? 2.67, kind of between these two numbers? That looks possible to me. So I'm going to write that down. Minutes. And the second one occurs close between 3.7 and 7.5, so I'm going to guess 7.5. And it tells me it really happens at 4.8. Could this be 4.8? Sure, it's between there. That looks reasonable. So 4.8. The question said between what 2 times? So it's between these 2 times. So that looks good. All right, and we're finished with that one. Thanks.